Hi, this is Scott, Kilo Sierra 6, Delta Alpha Yankee, and I'm very excited to do this video because I have something really cool to show you guys. What we're going to be talking about today is a wonderful world of tactical headsets. Now, this is my setup, and this is a setup I've been using for years. I've got a set of Walker's Razor Active Ear Pro, and what these are noise-canceling headphones, and they are designed to, they're electronic, so when they're turned on, you can hear ambient sounds around you. You can hear things at a conversational level, or turn it up high and actually amplify the surrounding sound to kind of give you a little bionic hearing. But at the moment that you have a sound that reaches a certain threshold, like gunfire, these will shut down immediately. They shut off and they become passive ear protection. Really no different than a set of regular earmuffs at that point. When that noise goes away, your hearing comes back and everything's just fine. And that particular system I've been using for many years, and they're great on the range. They work just fine. I have no complaints whatsoever about these Ear Pro, but what I wanted was the ability to have that and also be able to run a radio. And my setup was to basically use this patch cord that is has 3.5 millimeter plugs at either end. I can then attach that into the 3.5 millimeter plug that's present on most of my speaker mics that plug into my radios. And this gives me a pretty handy setup so that I can have noise canceling capability. I can run radios, and up to this point I've been fairly happy with it. I have another video where I show this, and I also have another video where I show how this is set up on my plate carrier. But I keep the speaker mic sideways on my plate carrier so that the mic is facing up and it's mounted directly below my chin. And I can talk, and for the most part it's fine. But the audio quality, the outgoing audio, is not terrific, and there's occasions where I have to tilt my head down to be able to get the noise into the microphone in order to be heard. And what it's led me towards is really the best solution that I'd like to see myself having is Active Ear Pro that has some kind of a boom mic and the ability to interface with my radio so that I can use Active Ear Pro in conjunction with my radio. And there are systems like that that have existed for many years. In fact, you're probably familiar with a few of them out there. There's the Peltor Comtac series, which is particularly popular. Safariland has the Liberator series. Auto has some cool headsets. MSA Sorden, they have some headsets. And they're all based on active ear protection with a boom mic and the ability to basically plug into a thing called a U94 PTT interface, which has a NATO plug. And you have a little button you press on your carrier, and when you talk, it goes into the boom mic, and you're good to go. And I would love to have a set of those. A lot of you, I'm sure, would love to have a set of those. But here's the downside. They're very expensive. A set of Peltor Comtacs, brand spanking new, is going to set you back close to $1,000. In some cases, a little higher depending on the features. You might even go as high as $1,300. And that applies for pretty much all of the other ones out there as well. Then you have the U94 interface, which is going to set you back in probably another $300 to get one that's adapted to work with something like a K1 type plug, and then that's the only setup you're going to be able to use. You're going to have a separate interface for each of the different radios you have if you have different speaker mic connections. So it can get real expensive real fast. For me, what it would represent is an outlay of right around $1,500 to $1,800. That's a bit much for me. I, like a lot of you, am working stiff. I live pretty reasonably. I don't have a lot of excess cash laying around. I drive a 20-year-old Chevy truck, so I'm not exactly shitting in tall cotton or rolling in dough. So it doesn't leave me much in between, because as the market, there really isn't anything below that until you get all the way down to the fake Peltors that you see being sold on Amazon. And there's a lot of them. And when you see those pictures of guys that have a set of Peltor Comtacs plugged into a Baofeng UV5R, in most cases, those are airsoft Peltors that somebody bought off of Amazon for about $100. And they go for $100 to $130. And they look exactly like Peltor Comtacs. They have the look. The problem is they don't have the function. Now, parts of them function, and that's encouraging, and that relates to what I'm going to be talking about today. But the important part, the noise canceling headphone portion of it, doesn't. The biggest complaint I hear from people that I've talked to that own those, as well as the reviews that I've read, is that the noise canceling headsets don't work. And as a passive headset, that doesn't work either. So they're kind of unsafe and inadvisable to use in an actual range environment. But for playing airsoft, for doing milsim, they're good to go. And I don't have a problem with that. But the only problem I have is when people try to press airsoft equipment into real world use. And there is where you're going to have a problem, because that gear breaks down pretty quick and it generally doesn't deliver as well as the real stuff does. Some of it is surprisingly good though. But when it comes to those headsets, they are garbage. But the encouraging part, the boom mics on them do work. A lot of people say, yeah, I'm fine on transmit, but when it comes to receive, I can't hear very well. The speaker quality inside of the headset is pretty awful, but the PTTs and the boom mics tend to work okay. Now, as with all Chinese stuff, you're going to get some duds here and there, but that part at least works. And I thought, how cool would it be to maybe, so I kind of played with a couple of different ideas. I was thinking of taking a set of walkers, and I was going to either buy a set of those airsoft Peltors and try to retrofit, because they connect, the mic connects right here. I was trying to think of maybe some module I could build so that I could actually use the boom mic on a set of walkers, plug in and hear the audio through the audio port here, and then tie that into a PTT maybe lower down on the carrier. But I never really brought that to fruition. Let me grab something else here. Also had a Heil HTH headset that I was going to cannibalize and actually take the boom mic off of this and bolt it into the side of the earpiece here, and then actually use the wiring and the PTT and everything together. But I never got beyond the planning stages for that. But the HTH headset is what kind of sold me on the idea of having that boom mic in front of your face. It does work pretty good, but this is just too fragile for the field. But fortunately, someone else has had the same idea. Now, what this is based off of is a few years back, Walker's brought out a little module that would plug into the bottom. Actually, there's a big clamp that went on the side. And you'll see a version of that in just a moment. It's a big inverted T. But it plugged in at the bottom here to the audio port. It had a little boom mic on it. And inside the housing, it had a little FRS radio, a little stubby antenna and everything. And this FRS radio would function as an FRS radio. And I know guys that actually use those on the range to communicate with other range instructors on the line. And they work pretty good for that. But for my purposes, they wouldn't, because I can't get that greater range I need from my other radios that I would want to use. And also the boom mics have a tendency of snapping off. But someone connected with the Fugazi Comtac market actually came out with something cool, and actually came out with something useful. So now we get to the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today and the subject of today's video. I know that was one hell of a lot of preamble to get us to this point, but that's how I do business. What we have here is something very, very interesting. So let me unwind all these little snakes here. So I've got this unit here. And then I got this unit, which should look familiar because these are Walker razors already. Now what somebody did was they took that idea, because this unit right here is physically exactly the same as that module that I was telling you about with the little FRS radio in it. The big difference is the boom mic is totally different on that. And as I told you earlier, the boom mics on the other one would snap off right at this point because they weren't very flexible. But what they did, let me grab that HTH again. But if you look at this, these look awfully familiar. They basically took that boom mic that I was going to cobble off of this Heil HTH headset. They put it into these little adapter units, and they came out with tactical headset kits for two of the most popular active ear pro units out there on the market. Now, we've talked a lot about the Walker's razors. The other and I would say more popular active ear pro that you can find out there is the Howard Leight Impact Sport headset. I know a lot of guys that swear by these, and a lot of guys that told me I was stupid for going with the walkers, and I'll be darned if they were right, or if they weren't right. More on that later, because I'm going to, as I go through here, it's going to become pretty obvious pretty fast which of these two units I like the most. But what this does for you is you have these units, so you have this module here or this module here that you buy separately, and they will plug into either this headset or this headset, depending on which model you have. And along with that comes the U94 PTT. Now, this is not a genuine USGI U94 PTT, but it does work along the same lines of that 1/4-inch connection that works with those. Has the little PTT button here, little clip to attach to your gear, and then it has a K plug. Now, you can also buy these U94 PTTs for different radios. I have one of these, in fact, for a Yaesu VX6 series radio that I'm going to be going over in a subsequent video. But you get the adapter unit and a PTT for the princely sum of $47. Now, immediately, because of their association with the fake Peltor contacts, and because they come in just a plastic bag with a label on it and not a single bit of instructions on how to put these on, it'll lead to a lot of skepticism. I know it did for me, because when I bought these, I didn't even have an intention of doing a video on these. I was just getting them to see if there were any parts that maybe they work, but if they didn't, I had some parts that I could maybe make work, or maybe I could bolt a better microphone on, or I could use a better PTT, or I could do a better this or a better that. I was mainly just concerned with the adapter housings and what I could do with it after that. In one case, that may still be the deal. In another case, what I got was almost perfect, and it works. So let me break these down, because there are some subtle differences between the two. They share common characteristics, so let's talk about those first. They both have the same boom mics. They both have the same PTTs. Beyond that, things begin immediately departing. So the adapter housing for the Razor, the Razor unit, just like with the radio unit you can purchase for those, it plugs into the jack at the bottom. Now, I pulled the little boot off of that. There's a little rubber cover on there that once you get it undone, you'll never get it back in, so you might as well just yank it off. I did that, and what it does is it clamps at the bottom and the top. So it has these little claws reach over at the top, and these little claws reach at the bottom, and then the whole unit just kind of snaps together. So I've kind of broken it apart there, and then just clicks in place. Now, of the two, I don't like this one. One of the first things I don't like is how much extra bulk this creates on the side of the ear cup versus the bulk on the Howard Leights. The Howard Leights have a much smaller footprint. It's a much trimmer, more compact unit. The big difference, though, this connects with a plug that actually plugs in place, whereas this is locked in place. I thought that would be a big selling point for me. It wasn't. This actually works out better in the long run. As I mentioned, this little connection here is a little fragile. The tabs on the inside that it locks onto are not that robust. I could see that if you took a pretty hard impact to the side here, this would just pop loose and fall off. I'm not too thrilled about that. What I may end up doing on this is actually filling the voids in here with epoxy and then roll pinning this latch in place so it's a permanent installation beyond that point. It is pretty solid once it's on there. And again, there is a little bit of extra bulk on there. But that's not a deal killer. If only this unit existed, I would still be a pretty happy camper. But the Howard Leight, this unit, much better. It's designed to mirror this molded area here, so it fits in and just snaps in place. So you got the little claws on the side, and then at the bottom it locks in with this set screw. So it's a much more solid unit. It's going nowhere, and it's further held in place by the actual plug that plugs in at the back here. I've beat on this thing, and it's not going to dislodge. It's not coming off, so I'm pretty confident that it's going to stay put and not be a problem whatsoever. Now, the big factor, though, is going to be, before I even get into talking about the Ear Pro, because the Ear Pro, while it doesn't relate to the tactical headset kits at all, there are some preferences that I have there as well. But the big question is, do these actually even work in the first place? Because if they don't, it's not even worth continuing for even 1 second further. And what I'll do right now, before I even get to that, is I'm going to play you an audio test that I did. And what I did was I started off with an Ocean KG UV9 Papa, transmitting with nothing attached to the radio. Then what I did was I put on each of the headsets, plugged them into the radio through the side port, and transmitted on each one. And the results are absolutely freaking amazing. So without further ado, let me give you those, and then we'll talk about the actual earmuffs themselves so that it'll give you a reason to stick around. So without further ado, let's move on to the actual audio test, and here it is right now.
Kilo Sierra 6 Delta Alpha Yankee audio test. Ocean KG UV9 Papa with nothing plugged into the speaker mic port. This is using the onboard microphone. Kilo Sierra 6 Delta Alpha Yankee audio test. Ocean KG UV9 Papa with a Walker Razor tactical headset kit. And the headset kit is being worn during transmission, and the PTT unit is being used. Kilo Sierra 6 Delta Alpha Yankee audio test. Ocean KG UV9 Papa. This is the Howard Leight tactical headset kit. The headset is being worn and the U94 PTT is being used. Kilo Sierra 6 Delta Alpha Yankee clear.
And we're back. Pretty amazing, huh? And they, like I said, they actually work. Now, I don't have long-term testing here. I have not used these for months on end under all conditions. So it's going to be an ongoing thing, and this is a preliminary review. But based on what I've seen so far, and I've been talking through these pretty constantly now for about 4 or 5 days, they work. And the audio quality is almost, I would say it's indiscernible from the microphone actually internal on the radio. I could not really tell a difference from talking straight into the front of the radio or talking into the boom mics here. So if that's the case, and the boom mics actually work, the PTTs actually work, it's just down to which of the two designs do you like better. I happen to like the Howard Leight a lot better. But if the Howard Leights aren't better than the Razors in terms of Active Ear Pro, then that is an issue, right? Well, here's the good news. The Howard Leights are hands down way better than the Walkers. And that kind of surprised me. Now, when I was buying Active Ear Pro, a lot of people told me, buy the Howard Leights. You'll like them more. They sound better. They're just much better than the Walkers. I didn't believe them. I kind of went my own way. And I've been happy because I was existing in that whole zone called you don't know what you don't know. And what I mean by that is if I've never tried the Howard Leights, then I have nothing to compare them to. So I'm just going off of my experiences with the Razors, and the Razors have been adequate to my needs until I tried the Howard Leights. And then I realized, oh, wow, I've been short sheeting myself for a good long time. Now let me start from the top and work down to the bottom real quick. First off, the headbands. I got a big old fat giant head, big old fat giant hands. The headband on this fits so much better than the Razors. I mean, it really fits quite well. It's more comfortable when these are on. These are lighter. They're more comfortable to wear. The headband's more comfortable by far. And it doesn't squeeze your head as tight. This squeezes your head excessively, whereas this doesn't. And I didn't even know that the whole time. Now let's talk about the audio quality. And one little thing that you're going to think this is a detraction from this, but it's actually not. So the way these work in terms of the received audio. Now remember I told you the fake Comtacs, one of the complaints is the received audio was awful. That's because the speakers inside the headset sucked. Now the way the Razor handles this is different than the Impact. The Razor, you have your active ear protection circuit where you hear through the microphone what's going on around you. You hear the sounds amplified, then everything shunts down. But the actual audio coming through the 3.5 millimeter jack is unrelated to this powered circuit. There's an actual passive speaker in the left ear cup that you hear the radio traffic through. So if these are turned off, you still hear the radio. If the battery's dead, you still hear the radio. So that's an advantage, I suppose, because if the batteries die in this one, you don't hear anything. When this is turned off, you're not going to hear any audio coming through here at all. So one would think, well, that's a bad thing, except for the other 99.9999% of the time that you're actually using these, because the audio is the biggest difference between these two sets of Ear Pro. The audio is dramatically different. So first things first, the audio for the radio comes through both ear cups, and it comes through in such a way that you can actually adjust the volume. Now, you adjust the volume heard through this ear cup by adjusting the volume on the radio. Well, you can adjust the volume on the radio, but also the volume control on the actual Ear Pro has an effect on that as well. You hear it through both ears, and it's just a different experience. It's hard for me to quantify in words exactly how that is. It just sounds better, okay? It's clearer and getting towards the audio quality. This sound, it's a more natural sound. It has a lot more bass to it. And again, it does sound more natural. The walkers, one of the problems that, and I've kind of always had this with the walkers, is when you turn them on, you will hear a constant white noise the entire time you have them on. The whole time they're on, you'll hear kind of a whooshing sound going. And I think that's down to the wind covers. There are no wind covers that I can detect on the walkers. There are on the razors. It may be the actual circuitry, but when you put the impacts on, you don't hear anything except the actual noises that are going on around you. It's far less pronounced. There's a little bit of it, but the sound is more natural and it's more directional. The walkers have always given me kind of like when I hear a sound coming in, they are omnidirectional microphones, but it's sometimes difficult to pick up, for me at least, exactly where that is coming from. With the Howard Leights, it's exact. I can make a noise at a certain angle behind my back or hear a noise coming from that area, and I know exactly where it's coming from each and every time. So the audio quality, again, much better. The audio quality of the radio is much better. They're more comfortable, as I mentioned earlier. They're lighter. The actual headset kit has a much smaller footprint and has a much more solid design. So here's the big question. If you own a set of Walker razors, that's great. The good news is you didn't spend that much for them. I would recommend, and this is what I did. I actually, if you look at the history in which I ordered these, I ordered this unit first, and 2 days later, I ordered this one. And I did so because I wanted, first off, I just wanted these, and I just wanted these for myself. But the more I looked into the Impact Sports, I looked at the reviews on the headset itself, but also just the design appealed to me more, and I had a sense that I might like the layout a little bit better. So I did not own a set of Impact Sports, so I bought a brand new set of Impact Sports, and I bought this headset kit, and also it gave me the ability to compare the two together and see if there were any differences. And this is one of the best things I've done for myself in many, many years. I'm glad my instinct was to do that, because my advice for you, getting back to that, if you own a set of Walker razors, great, continue using them on the range. Buy yourself a brand new set of Howard Leight Impact Sports and this tactical headset kit. You are going to be less than $100. $47 for the Howard Leights, and I believe $47 for the headset kit. If my math is correct, that's still less than $100. In fact, if you're doing Prime and your tax rates aren't too terribly high, you're probably still going to stay below 100. At worst, you're going to be maybe $106 out the door. So for what you would pay for a set of fake contacts, you actually get a set of Ear Pro that actually works. Now, are they as good as a real set of Peltor contacts? Probably not. I would say definitely not. The Peltor contacts come with a few other advancements and features that are a factor of being $1,100 out the door brand new. So there are some things that you cannot expect from this headset that the contacts might be able to deliver. The question you have to ask yourself is that necessarily important to you in the overall sense? For me, not so much so. I don't door kick anymore. I don't really envision myself out patrolling with a unit wearing a set of these. But I have a ton of other lighter and lesser duty things that this would be an excellent piece of equipment for me to have. So even from a tactical standpoint, this is going to be pretty good to go for a while. And like I was saying earlier, you do the best you can with what you have where you're at. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to tactical headsets, if you're a person who can't afford a set of Peltor contacts, legit can't afford it and probably won't be able to, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have a decent set of tactical ear pro. And this, I believe, is going to be the answer for now. Now, if another company comes out with a set of purpose-built Active Ear Pro with boom mic built in and it's $200-300, I guarantee you I'm going to be buying those and trying it out. But for now, this is actually kind of worth looking at. Now again, I mentioned this is stuff that's imported from China. It's coming from Amazon. There's always going to be a chance that you're going to get a U94 PTT that's going to be a dud. Wow, these things are always hard to pull out. But the two U94 PTTs that I got both work. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video on the one that I got for the VX6. I actually don't know if that's going to work or not because I haven't tested it yet. But so far, so good with what I've gotten. I did notice in the reviews there was a guy that got a bad PTT unit. With Amazon, you just send it back and they send you another one. Chances are it's going to work when you get that one. But we'll see what this thing can do. We'll see what it can put up with. But for an investment of less than $100, it's kind of a safe bet. That's not half bad, to be honest with you. I think it's worth looking at. So with that, I will bring it to a close at this point. Thank you for watching and or listening. This is Scott, Kilo Sierra 6, Delta Alpha Yankee from Visalia, California. Have a wonderful day.